applause for coming out today. My name is Ryan Woods. I have the pleasure of serving as the Parks Commissioner for the City of Boston. I want to first by thanking the hardworking men and women of the Boston Parks Department, as well as the staff at Inspire who help take care of this park on a daily basis. So thank you to the teams that do all that work for us. If you have not yet noticed, we have Dunkin Donuts as our annual sponsor, giving out iced coffee and full-size donuts this year. We're not messing around with little munchkins, the real deal over there. And if you're a health nut over here under this tent, we have Star Markets giving fresh fruit, so fresh cut fruit over that. So please make sure you go visit those. The mayor's mission is to try to get City Hall outside of City Hall and into the neighborhood. So this is an effort to connect and engage. And you'll see from departments tabling, the biggest lines are the ones that have the best swag. So if you see where the lines are, you can go and grab bags and t-shirts. We also have fresh flowers and plants grown from the City of Boston greenhouse at Franklin Park for you to take home. So please go over that way and visit that. One of the mayor's large initiatives this year is trying to make a commitment to youth and really work on the basics. We are a livable city, but how do we engage at that livable city for youth? And that's going back to the basics, such as teaching kids how to swim, teaching them how to ride a bike, getting their hands dirty and learning how to plant, getting involved in a sport, engaging with the arts. These are all ways that we build these building blocks to build confidence and create pathways for youth. So that's what we're going to talk about this summer. Our summer guide is out with all movies, concerts, workshops throughout the city. We welcome you to grab that off our table. That is our Bible for the summer for all free events across the city. And here in South Boston, you have a liaison who is your contact to the City of Boston. She's the one from the mayor's office. She can connect you with any city agency. It's my pleasure to introduce Anna White.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you so much, Commissioner Woods, for being such a great friend to South Boston. I'd also like to welcome this morning Council President Ed Flynn, Councilor Murphy, Chief Brianna Malore, Commissioner Burke, Commissioner Cox, Chief Sheila Dillon, Chief Franklin Hodge, and I've heard former South Boston ONS Eric Prentice is here somewhere in the crowd, so welcome to all of you. Thank you, everyone, for being here. It's so great to host all of you. It's also amazing to see so many neighbors from all corners of South Boston, from the Seaport, to Andrew Square, to Fort Point, to Cityside, and City Point, and West Broadway, to Gate of Heaven, and North of Broadway, to Dorchester Heights and St. Vincent's. Welcome. If you're looking to join your neighborhood association, I can help connect you to yours. It's a privilege to be in a position where I get to talk about and work to improve the neighborhood that I love, while bringing Mayor Wu's visions and goals for the city to all of you. My job is to bring City Hall out of City Hall and into 02210 and 02127. I also get to reinforce that South Boston is a vibrant place made up of, just to name a few things, amazing nonprofits, cutting-edge biotech and robotics companies, a major working port, BPS schools, small coffee shops, famous restaurants, and all of you, the residents of South Boston, some of whom who have been here for 3 months and some who have been here for 3 generations. The City of Boston is investing in our neighborhood. Through CPA funding, the city is investing in affordable housing and historic preservation right here in the neighborhood. We're investing $2.5 million in the McDevitt Senior Homes, which will help to fund the repurposing of the 5-story McDevitt Hall building, the former Paraclete, into units of affordable senior rental housing. Yay! We're also investing in historic preservation with almost $400,000 to be used for the exterior restoration of the historic 1891 Congress Street Fire Station. Okay. Guided by Mayor Wu, there is a huge investment in not only improving the physical spaces of our schools, but the city is focused on the present and the future of BPS, starting with our littlest learners, with $20 million of funding being invested in universal pre-K, with the sum of that funding going to the South Boston Neighborhood House's universal pre-K program. Starting this summer, the city has scheduled improvement projects in some of our schools. The Up Academy Boston is getting a new boiler. Excel High School is also getting a new boiler, and the Tynan is getting HVAC replacements. And since our last coffee hour, the heroes who work at 311 have helped to facilitate the closure of over 28,000 311 cases in South Boston alone, which is amazing. Thank you, 311. Again, thank you everyone for being here today. And I will now turn it over to our amazing, our fabulous, our wonderful mayor, Michelle Wu. Thank you.
Good morning, South Boston. Thank you so much for coming out. Round of applause for your incredible neighborhood liaison, Anna, who wears so many hats in the neighborhood, and we're so happy that she's willing to keep one of them on officially with the city because she does a whole lot more in addition to this. And so as I'm looking around, so many of you are also active or leading your neighborhood associations. You have that issue that you've been fighting for, whether it's around a park or a particular cause or a neighborhood nonprofit and organization. And so this is one of the most committed neighborhoods when it comes to, I would say, one of the most committed communities anywhere around the country when it comes to really just digging deep and being there to fight for whatever your fellow community member needs. And we see that passed on generation after generation in South Boston with so many different cultures and community members, generations coming together. We're also in a part of the neighborhood that really reflects how much we are looking to blend with arts and culture and open space and tourism and right in the heart of the city, but also a very, very strong residential core that I believe takes precedence. Our people and our residents come first above all else. So as you can hear a little bit, how many people have been to a coffee hour in previous years? Okay, so we have some folks. How many folks, this is your first time? Welcome, thank you for being here. So this is the 26th annual Neighborhood Parks Coffee Hour series. As part of that, some things have stayed the same. Our amazing Parks Department led by Commissioner Ryan Woods and his team spent a whole lot of time preparing. Not only do they continue their work day in and day out of making sure our green spaces are beautiful, accessible, and available to everyone, they also, do we have the little plans? Yes. Okay, they go pretty quickly, but they spend a lot of time, several months in advance, growing from seed little plants from our own collections in the City of Boston Parks Department to share with neighborhoods, so you can take home a little piece of the green and the love that Boston represents. In addition, this year we also really wanted to tailor each neighborhood's event to that neighborhood just a little more. So you heard Anna giving a bit more detail on what we have done, the amount of engagement, the amount of investment that's going in here, and also we had asked through a survey that went out beforehand if folks had particular topics or questions you wanted to hear about. So I'll take a couple of the questions that were submitted in a little bit as well. I wanted to say that we're in an incredible moment for Boston. There is so much happening in the world. There's a lot of instability across the world in all different ways that you can look at that or think about that. And in Boston, we're so lucky that we're building on just a bedrock and foundation of people putting community first over so many decades and generations. I get to work alongside some incredible colleagues who work for the administration, so many departments here represented. Raise your hand if you work for the City of Boston. Thank you for your service, right? Everyone from neighborhood services and the police department, EMS, housing, transportation and streets and public works, parks, of course. And I also get to work alongside amazing colleagues on the City Council. So, in fact, your district councilor is also the president of the Boston City Council, Ed Flynn, who you'll hear from shortly. Thank you for your leadership, Council President. We're also joined by City Councilor at Large Erin Murphy, who alongside your roster of at-large councilors, Councilor Flaherty, Councilor Mejia, Councilor Lujan, are working every day to make sure that this neighborhood gets the resources and attention and programming that it deserves. So I'm a mom. Everything that I do, everything that I think about revolves around how are we going to make our city better for our kids. And as I think about what this neighborhood in particular needs, right, housing that's affordable, spaces that families can spend time from every age of kid to taking care of elders, a Curly Community Center that finally gets open when we can figure out the piping plover situation, and we're working on it so hard, believe me. Arts and culture that really reflect your ability to connect with every bit of your humanity and grow up in that. and the chance to really be part of a city that's focused on the future. So our vision for Boston is that we want to be the greenest city in America, because that's how we are the healthiest city, that's how we bring jobs. And we also want to be the city that is first for families, the best place in the country to put down roots and raise a family, a multi-generational family. We're doing a whole lot, as you heard from Ryan, on making sure every bit of support and every bit of happiness and opportunity we connect to our young people. We're focused intensely on the Boston Public Schools as well. Our superintendent is leading a major overhaul with a new focus on academics and curriculum, facilities, supports, and the youth sports and arts and everything that makes it exciting for our kids to come to school as well. And we want to make sure that as we think about what each community needs, it is always in terms of people, not just units, not just buildings and heights and numbers, but what do people need in their day-to-day lives? How do they get around? How do we make sure everything is accessible, reliable, and available to residents from every community and every generation? So before I get into questions, I do want to give my colleagues a chance to say a quick hello. And I'll just say overall, we're here to serve whatever dreams, concerns, hopes, fears you might have, even if it's not something that city government can directly handle and take care of. Think of us as the place where you reach out to get you connected to wherever we could possibly find that support that you need. And so we want to be that very first resource that you think of for anything in the community. And then, as Anna said, here in particular, you have such a strong and connected set of neighborhood associations, civic groups, community organizations, so we can get you plugged into your community in that way as well. So now I'll pass it over to City Council President Ed Flynn.
Thank you, Mayor Wu. I'm honored to be here with you, Mayor, and my colleagues in government, Councilor Murphy, and with my neighbors here in South Boston in the Ford Point neighborhood. I also want to say thank you to the dedicated and professional city employees that are here. I know the Mayor mentioned them, but just want to say thank you again to the Boston Police, EMS, Fire. They play a critical role, the Parks Department, they play a critical role in our city. And working with Mayor Wu over the last year, we treat this area as a traditional neighborhood as well. And it's a neighborhood really that's been lacking city services, as you know. But what's important is very shortly we're going to be having a new firehouse in this area. Commissioner Burke is here from the fire department. Thank you, Commissioner. We also have Commissioner Hooley, but we're also getting an EMS presence here in the South Boston waterfront as well. I want to say thank you to Captain Boyle and Superintendent Rich Dayhill as well. But this is what South Boston is. It's about coming together, working together, supporting the many nonprofits that are here, the South Boston Association of Nonprofits. I think all of you are here. The Gavin Foundation that helps so many people in recovery. The South Boston Neighborhood House that does tremendous work across the community. We have BCYF that also does tremendous work. I could go on and on, but I just want to say thank you. Honored to be here with my colleagues. Councilor Flaherty as well wanted to be here. He might be coming here towards the end. Wanted to be here with the Mayor of Boston and with Councilor Murphy. Thank you.
Hi everyone, great to see you all on this beautiful day. I'm your at-large counselor. I always do say from Dorchester it's always warm and sunny, and I guess it's true for South Boston also. The sun is always shining here. And I do want to echo what your wonderful ONS Anna Whitehead said, that this administration, leading by Mayor Wu's example, we're focusing on our young children, our foundation, and that's so important. I was honored to be Anna's daughter's teacher. I was a teacher in Boston Public Schools for over 20 years and a mom for 34 years, so I do know that all of the work you're doing here in this community, if it's neighborhood associations, if it's the nonprofits, thank you, Council President Flynn, for shouting out the Gavin Foundation. You are anchored here in South Boston, but you touch the lives and help families all across New England, not just the city. So thank you for all the work you do. And thank you to all of the departments. It's so great to see familiar faces when we're in City Hall. Sometimes, you know, your head's down, you're in a meeting or in the office. I say these past 18 months as an at-large city councilor, I do my best work when I leave City Hall, when I'm outside of my comfort zone of my own neighborhood, and I go around to all of the neighborhoods. So I've had wonderful conversations already, and I look forward to talking to more of you today. And make sure reach out, working alongside your wonderful district councilor and also Councilor Flaherty, who comes from South Boston. We have to work together, because at the end of the day, what matters is that we're delivering constituent services and we're making this city work for everyone, and I'm committed to doing that. So thank you so much, and thank you for being here.
Okay, I'm gonna go fast because I know everyone wants to get back to conversations and saying hello to each other. So a couple questions that were submitted, and I might ask a few of our chiefs to come up to share their thoughts too. So a bunch of them were related to transportation. One came in saying, can we have less meters, more resident parking, get rid of bike lanes? Just to be we're sharing it with transparency. On the other hand, there was another one that came in that said, how are we working as a city to get people out of cars and onto bikes, onto public transit and out walking? How are we making our city less car dominant? Is there being anything developed to improve parking in South Boston? It's impossible to park and public transportation is completely unreliable. Any plans to improve either one? Chief Franklin Hodge, do you want to come up and join me for some thoughts? So I'll start big picture citywide, and then we'll really drill down. I have 2 kids. I know getting around is complicated when you have the lacrosse equipment with you, when you're getting groceries and this and that. We need to make it so that, and we also know, as we're seeing more of the kind of pre-pandemic patterns around traffic return, Boston pre-pandemic had the worst traffic anywhere in the country at rush hour. Unfortunately, we are looking to try to do something about that, but we're starting to see some of that creeping back, and so we need to make sure people have as many options as possible. The thing about traffic, though, is that if you actually do the research, it doesn't take that much to ease traffic. You don't need to get, like, let's say you have a road that is completely clogged and not moving. You don't need to get 50% of the cars off the road for traffic to start flowing. The magic number is actually only about 5%. If you have 5% of people being able to use other options that they wanted, it moves just enough space in between the cars that people can get going again. And so, you know, there's a lot outside our control at the city level. We're really, you can see what happens when regional traffic from the highway system starts to dump into Boston. And so we're doing our best to work with the state on a lot of issues, and we have some great working partners. In fact, our relatively newly appointed transportation commissioner at the state level used to be the head of transportation at the city level, Secretary Fiandaka, and so we have some great close ties and are working on a daily basis there. What we need to do is manage our curb space better, right? With the advent of food pickup and, you know, Uber Eats or all of the you know, ordering from home, where people can pull over to get out of traffic and stop blocking the main lane of traffic if they need to run in. That's an important consideration for how we use the curb space, as well as how we're thinking about, again, that 5%. How do we use public transportation? In this neighborhood, the buses, I mean, we're pushing the T. There needs to be more frequent buses so that lines aren't queuing up all along the street and then pushing everyone else who is pushing a stroller out into the street because the lines of people trying to get on the bus are there. So there's a lot that is related to public transit here as well, and having access points for bike lanes, again, 5%, to give people that extra option will go a long way, and we want to make sure that everything fits together, and knowing that in some neighborhoods the pace of development went faster, beyond our control and maybe before our time, but went faster than the thoughtfulness around parking, transportation, and how all of that can fit together. We're changing that in how we do our planning and development now. so that transportation and schools and open space are all squarely part of what we think about. But in some parts of the city, we're doing a little bit of catch up. So Chief Franklin Hodger, Chief of Streets, any thoughts on South Boston in particular?
Sure. Thank you, Mayor. Thanks for the softball question. I think as the mayor said, and as was evident in the questions, right, this is a topic where there's a lot of strong opinions, there's a lot of different perspectives, there's a lot of, frankly, what's very clear to us is there's no one answer to solving transportation, right? For some people, I rode my bike here today, but for some people that's an option. For other people, that's absolutely not. Whether, they need to move, a bunch of kids, they need to move, equipment for work, or that's simply, not an option for them. Similarly, transit works great for some people, not for others. So our job is to build a system that provides balance, that provides options and choice for people to choose whatever mode of transportation is most effective for them in their life, and to make sure that that system as a whole is functional, that it's safe, that it's convenient, that it lets people connect with the things that are important in their life. What I will say, though, is just to double down on the mayor's point about the growth that's happened, and frankly the growth that's still to come, right? Boston is a thriving city. We are adding tens of millions of square feet of new offices, and that means new jobs. We're adding residences all over the city. That means more people coming into the city. If we grow by just adding more cars, life will get worse for all of us, no matter how you get around. There will be more traffic, more stress looking for parking. So our job is to figure out how do we strike a balance so that we can add those jobs, we can add those people, we can welcome new neighbors without adding to that level of stress that we're all facing. And that means trying to make sure that the alternatives to car ownership for those who can are there, that the transit system works, that it's reliable, that walking is safe and comfortable, that biking is an option for people who want to do it. And so we're trying to do this here in South Boston and all over the city. Some of that is about, providing space for buses to operate in places that are congested, dedicating some space for the bus so that you don't get those lines at L and Broadway like we see. Part of that is about making sure that there's safe places for people to cross the street. We have a number of places in South Boston where we hear time and time again people just don't feel comfortable walking or don't feel comfortable with their older parents or their kids walking. And so we're looking at all of these things and saying, how do we make a system that's safe and strikes the balance for all the different modes of transportation that people have. So that's the job. Not easy, but really appreciate everyone's involvement and participation in the planning processes that we have. The South Boston Transportation Action Plan is underway right now, and this is really developing a series of short, medium, and long-term options to help improve transportation for everyone here. If you are interested, get involved. You can find information on the website about that. Get involved, and that will be a critical tool in helping us chart a course for how we can get ahead of future growth and future development, as well as addressing long-standing needs of the community when it comes to transportation. So, thank you.
Okay, I'll do one more. And before that, I want to recognize longtime South Boston resident and city leader, your commissioner for the Commissioner for Persons with Disabilities, Commissioner McCosh. Thank you for your leadership. We had a great visit down some of the streets that need a little attention when it's speaking of safety for all road users when it comes to different property owners and therefore the sidewalks being barriers in many ways. And so we're working on that with a lot of folks around the table. Okay, last one. Support for, how do we make sure there's support for the middle class with respect to affordable housing and attractive public schools? And I know Chief Dillon's here, so if you want to offer any words, our Chief of Housing, I'll just give two quick examples of how we're thinking about these issues. One, of course, when it comes to schools and housing, this is the priority, right? We're putting every bit of funding that we have, we're working with the state, we're doing everything possible, but most of all, we're also examining processes that have been running for a long time that actually could, if we just took a little time and fixed them or made them a little faster, we could do a whole lot more. On the housing front, for example, I signed an executive order almost a year ago at this point, to say we're going to cut in half the amount of time it takes for approvals of affordable housing developments. The process itself, forget all it takes to find the funding and draw the plans and engage the community. The process just to get the paperwork done had been 11 months on average, with some far outliers far more. And so we're intending to make that 6 months or less, we're already seeing a lot of results there from different agencies who before were doing design review with sometimes conflicting feedback from different angles, really tightening how we're thinking about interacting and making these processes as accessible and easy as possible. With the public schools, similarly, a lot of funding, a lot of partnerships, exciting things happening with facilities and new initiatives, but we're also looking at what the underlying challenges were that we could make easier and go faster. One item that had been in the teacher's contract to protect our educators was really having an impact on special education. A large proportion of the students in Boston Public Schools have designated services for some learning disability or for a different type of disability. And previously, because of language in the contract that was meant to ensure very strict ratios to protect our educators, it had basically turned it into an on or off switch. Some students were being pushed to have no services because they didn't qualify for that threshold enough, or some students were, because of the rigidity of the language, services were only in specific schools. And so once you were designated and legally deserved services, you would get assigned to a school that was often very far from your home. And then we were segregating those services and segregating students as well in that way. We're now flipping everything by changing that contract language, putting $50 million to this initiative in particular, and working very closely with our educators so that services will follow each student rather than students having to chase after the services. This will make schools available based on where you live, based on everything else in your own lives, and it's a small, sometimes in the weeds change that is going to have possibly the biggest impact of all in how our transportation for students runs and everything else about academics. Chief Dillon, do you want to add anything else about housing in general?
Yeah. I would just add a few things that are pretty specific to this area. The mayor's been very clear that while we want to encourage new housing production, we do want to work with developers to get more varied housing and more resources for our affordable housing. So we've just recently increased the linkage fee. We're now looking at inclusionary development to make sure that our new developments can serve more of our residents. I really want to thank the 4 Point neighborhood because we really helped negotiate a better outcome on the Related Beal project, getting more housing for our artists who have been displaced from this area. One other thing I want to mention is that you do have some very large public housing in South Boston, and we've been working with the developers to bring on additional housing in addition to really renovating the existing public housing for future generations. So there's a lot going on, but you have my commitment and the mayor's commitment that if we are getting additional resources from all of the private development, we really do want to stay in this neighborhood. One more quick thing. I've gotten a lot of calls lately, in the last 6 months especially, of seniors that are being displaced from South Boston. And I'm looking at Donna, we really are committed to building more senior housing so our residents can stay in the neighborhood and making money available for that. So more to come, but thank you.
Okay, everybody's been in the sun for a long time. We have 2 winners to announce, and then we're good. One's going to be the winner of the Dunkin raffle, and another, this is a sneak peek, it hasn't even gone out publicly yet, but the city started a legacy business program because we know our small businesses are so important to neighborhoods being the places that we love, and we especially wanted to make sure that long-standing businesses who have been here a decade plus in the community get that extra recognition, support, resources, so that they, so that we don't lose these precious pieces of neighborhood infrastructure and community too. So of the entire city, I think there were something like, we ended up with something like 28 winners for the Legacy Business Program for this first round, and one in South Boston is Deja Brew. So please support them. Long-standing business, multiple family generations, and just an incredible resource for everyone. Congratulations to them, and thank you to everyone for nominating businesses. We'll keep having this in years to come.
The big drum roll, the winner of the Dunkin' Donuts raffle, Suzanne R. is all that's on there. So 1784 is your last 4 digits of your phone number. So Suzanne R, if you come up, we're glad to connect you with us. Thanks everyone for coming out. Enjoy the rest of the day.
I told you I would. Yeah. I know. Never happened. Okay.
John Pete. How are you? I'm good. 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 All right. Thank you for the other day. Everything.